All right, everyone. So we just got a recent increase in the price for Bitcoin. So we're going to talk about that. I know I haven't been making videos in a while. It's been a whole month actually, but we're going to get right back to it like nothing ever happened. So let's just go straight over this. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor, none of this is financial advice, but let's talk about this. So right now we're at 44.6K Bitcoin. That's actually pretty good. And we came from a really low point here in Bitcoin. We dropped all the way down to 38.9K. Now, I was talking about how we were going to do this before I had stopped making videos for a while, right? Right before that, and we actually did that. Okay, so like I've actually been talking about how we're going to be going back down to 48 or to 38K when we were all the way almost at 50K, right? I seen it. I already knew it was going to happen just because I watched the charts all the time. I knew something was going to happen. And with these technical indicators, like I said, if you want to check these out, link in the description for Chart Prime, but they show a lot about what's going to happen inside the future. Whenever we typically hit the top of the momentum wave bands here, we always get a pullback. So I knew that pullback was going to come. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to wait for this because eventually it's going to pull back down to where it once was before. And, before the price of Bitcoin really just started going crazy, 38K was that level that we were really watching. So 38K has always been, a significant point for Bitcoin. It's like a psychological level. Like when people see that, they're like, okay, we need to buy more when it hits 30K. So that's, or 38K. That's why when we hit 38K, it didn't continue to go down. It actually stopped at 38K and it kept going back up. So right now, a lot of people are predicting that we go up to like 55, 52K. I've seen a lot of people talking about that. And I'll tell you my personal opinion about what's going to happen here very soon. Now, something that's very, very important here for Bitcoin, if you actually look over here, the core inflation rate, the inflation rate, all that is going to be talked about on the 13th of February. So that's going to be in a little bit less than a week. We're going to end up seeing what's going to happen there. So when we actually get the inflation rate, when that comes in, this is going to dictate whether or not people are buying or selling Bitcoin. Okay. So if we're looking at it and we're seeing that the economy is good, that inflation is, not doing too bad. Let's say inflation is very, very good, right? We're not having bad inflation, right? Let's say it's more of a deflation thing, right? We're not having bad inflation. Then what we're going to end up seeing is Bitcoin is probably going to do something that most people aren't really going to expect, right? Because most people are going to look at it and they're like going to be like, look, Bitcoin is having like no inflation, right? Or not Bitcoin, but the overall market is having no inflation. So maybe Bitcoin is going to be going up. Maybe Bitcoin is going to be going down, right? But me personally, when I see that inflation isn't bad, people are probably going to want their money to be more inside of actual cash rather than Bitcoin. But if inflation is really, really, really bad, why would they want to have their money inside US dollars? They would really want to put their money inside of Bitcoin. So if we see the inflation rate isn't as bad as what we thought, people are going to be like, okay, maybe I'll hold off on buying Bitcoin. I'll have my cash. But if it's really bad, then maybe they'll have more Bitcoin than cash. So that's really the thoughts of it. And one thing I want to say is that the ultra rich people, the big whales in Bitcoin with more than 1,000 Bitcoin, and just for people that don't know, 1,000 Bitcoin here is actually worth a lot of money. So 1,000 Bitcoin right now will run you, let's see how much that is. Actually, I did divide it. Let's do 1,000 times 44,632. That's $44.6 million, right? Those are the ultra millionaires right there, right? Those are the millionaires inside of Bitcoin. So the people that are buying Bitcoin right now have 1,000 plus Bitcoin. They're the people, the ultra rich inside of Bitcoin. This article here with CoinDesk, they actually said Bitcoin addresses with over 1,000 Bitcoin grew significantly over the past 2 weeks. That's what they've been saying. Now, that's pretty interesting. And one thing I do want to say here, if we're seeing these people who have $44 million plus investing inside of more Bitcoin, it's probably because they see that something about to happen inside of the market right now. So that's more than just the crypto market, right? That's the overall financial market. And the reason why the United States inflation rate is so important is because we have the highest GDP inside of the whole entire world. When other places are doing trading in currencies, they're trading in US dollars, right? That's starting to, come to an end slowly but surely. But as of right now, the US dollar is still the most widely traded currency amongst all currencies, even cryptos, right? It's always been the US dollar. Right now is the US dollar. Not always, the French used to have their power then. But obviously right now it's the US dollar, okay? So at this point in time right now, since the US dollar is, going through its inflation period, what we're seeing right now, when we have this inflation rate coming out on the 13th, that's really going to show us what is going to happen inside the next coming weeks. That's why it's so important to watch what happens in the next week when we finally have that inflation rate coming out. And that's probably why we have these Bitcoin whales with over 1,000 Bitcoin buying, because they probably foresee something that we don't. Because, these actual whales, they have actual financial analysts that work for them. They have financial advisors that work for them. And they actually go over these global economics. They go over the economics of the United States. They know exactly what's going to happen. So if they're buying a lot of Bitcoin right before we're about to have our inflation rate released for this month over month, um, inflation rating, that pretty much is showing us that they probably believe that it's going to be a lot different than what other people believe. So, like I said before, if the price of Bitcoin is increasing and we're getting more rich people buying in Bitcoin, right? They're going to be buying when the inflation is pretty much going down. Because if inflation is going down, that means your money is probably going to be worth more inside of US dollars and you're going to be able to have more buying power. But if inflation is going up, then obviously you're probably going to want to get your money inside of like Bitcoin. So then your Bitcoin money goes up with inflation. If a burger goes from $1 to $1.10, the US dollar is pretty much going from $1 to 90 cents. So $1 to $1.10 going down, and that's with the burger, right? The burger going to $1 and $1.10, and then your dollar is pretty much going to be worth 90 cents. So what you're going to want to do is have your money in Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is going to go from 44K to 44.1K. So that's essentially what they're looking at this as. So it's very important to look at the inflation rate when you're also thinking about buying. And this is typically, how it goes on average, but it doesn't always happen this way, right? We could have the inflation rate just going up crazy and then Bitcoin going up crazy too, right? Or we could have the inflation rate going up, but Bitcoin going down because people are in a financial crunch and have to sell their Bitcoin. So it doesn't always have to be black and white, right? There's always a gray area. So we always want to remember that. But in general, this is how it typically works. But right now with Bitcoin, I am expecting Bitcoin to continue to rise leading up to that. And there's been a lot of talks about how they're gonna pause the rate hikes. So if they're gonna be pausing rate hikes, then people are probably gonna be like, you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and put our money inside of Bitcoin so that we can kind of catch up to inflation if they're doing that. So maybe that's why we're getting this buying power coming into the market here right before that. Now, like I said before, 47 to 48K, we're probably going to hit that very soon. We have resistance at 48K. If we do that, then 52K is going to probably be coming after that. Now, me personally, I'm still sticking by this. Like a lot of people, they were kind of saying that it's not going to 38K. A lot of people were saying I was stupid for saying it's going to 38K, but it did exactly that and it went down to 30K. I also said something else. I also said I truly believe it'll go down to 30K as well. I said if it doesn't go down to 30K, it's going to stop at 38K. And it did that. It didn't go down to 30K, but it stopped at 38K. And I mentioned that. You can actually go back and watch my videos. What I also believe here now to be true is we're probably not going to stop there. Like, even though we just now got a huge increase in our prices, I still truly believe that Bitcoin is going to pull back to at least 32K. Like this time, I'm saying if it doesn't go down to 30K, it's going down to 32K. Just like I said, if it doesn't go down to 30K, it's going down to 38K. Well, it hit 38K. And since it hit 38K, I truly believe it can go down even further to 32K or 30K. So I'm going to say it again. If it doesn't hit 30K, then it's going to go to 32K. And you guys can mark this in history right now. If it doesn't go down to 30K, it'll go down to 32K. If it hits 32K, then it's probably going to hit 30K. That's just how I see things here. So obviously not everybody's right. I'm not right about everything. I can be wrong. So if I'm wrong, definitely throw that in my face. But if I'm right, definitely give me some Bitcoin for that or something. But like I was saying, I do believe it's going to go down. Now, I also believe we could go back up in price here. We could, right? We could also hit 48K and keep on going after 48K, right? And there's always the possibility that we don't do what I believe and going down to 30K. There's always the possibility that we don't do that. But we're just going to have to see what exactly happens there. And if you want my reasoning behind this, leading up to the Bitcoin halving, which is going to be sometime April or sometime May of this year, either April or May of this year, late April or early May. The reason why I believe this is because typically leading up to that Bitcoin halving, we always have that pump, 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 and then right before it comes, we have the dump. So I personally believe we already had that pump. Now I could be wrong. We could start having that pump now. That pump could bring us up to 52K, or it could bring us up to 58K, right? That pump could happen, or I mean 55K, but it could happen, right? It could happen, or it might have already happened. And I'm of the belief that that pump already happened prior to that Bitcoin halving. So if that pump already happened, then what we're going to end up seeing is Bitcoin pulling back, maybe even stops at the Fibonacci retracement here, down at 36K, 35K. Maybe it doesn't go all the way down to 32K. Because if you look at here, this was a significant level of support for us all the way from early November all the way up until late November. It was a significant amount of support and it held strongly. So 35K might be that area that we might want to actually look at. Well, 36K, let's be honest, it's 36K. That's where the Fibonacci is. But yeah, 36K might be that level of support that we're really looking at. So could stop at 36K instead of going down to 30K. But the whole idea here is that dropping back down to the 30Ks, mid 30Ks is like what the idea is here. That's what I'm really looking at. So I do believe that we could do that pretty soon. So that's what I'm going to be watching out for personally. I think it's going to drop back down there. But hey, let me know what you guys think about this inside of the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. And definitely check out the link in the description for Chart Prime if you want these indicators. And as always, I'll be back with another video.